Hey, everybody, and welcome back. This is Amanda Moxley and a very special guest today, Jaclyn Ouillette.
Hi, Amanda. Ouillette.
Oh,
Ouillette.
it's French, Ouillette. And today, Jaclyn, I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you for your time. We're going to talk today about how to nail your message because some of you guys are all over the place and your message isn't landing. And what happens and what happened with Jaclyn is that once she nailed her message, she signed up ideal clients instantly and did retreats and did workshops and did all these speaking gigs, and you were attracting your ideal clients and showing up to serve them. So I wanted you to come on and I want to ask you a bunch of questions. So welcome, everyone. I'm so happy you're here. Hi, Diane. And I see Angie's here. Rebecca's here. Some of the friends from Speaker Way to Success are here. Hello. All right. So you guys can ask us questions. And if you want some laser coaching around nailing your message as well, you can type those up and in the chat and we will answer them. Okay. So Jaclyn, just tell us like who you are, what your mission is, what do you do? Tell us who you are.
Well, the short version, I live in Maine. I grew up in Maine, and I've always been connected to the outdoors and the wilderness. I had an experience in my life where I went from living my dream as a wilderness guide in the high countries in Wyoming to being bedridden. And I had to overcome that illness. So I had to go basically through a whole transformation of body, mind, and spirit, and return to the wilderness in a new way. So now my work, instead of just guiding people up mountains, I'm going into the wilderness and helping women to transform, helping them to be empowered to transform their entire life, body, mind, and spirit.
Oh, incredible. And so weren't you sort of bedridden for like 6 years?
Yeah, I was bedridden for 2.5 years and then spent about 2.5 years kind of finding some treatment and getting out of bed and moving slowly back to life. But yeah, the whole journey was about 7 years.
7 years. Incredible. And so this is clearly a really great seminar story, right? The fact that you've overcome this and now you're here and you're helping women, guiding them from the inside out. So did you have a business before around this or something, or were you doing something else?
Well, before the illness, I was just a wilderness guide. I was an instructor. I worked for another company. And then when I got sick, I expected to go back to work in, 30 days or 6 months. And then like year after year, it just kept going on. So I ended up starting my own a jewelry business, which I still have, and kind of learning a little bit about business that way. But then as I got better and reconnected with the earth, I wanted to help people to go back out into the wilderness and connect in a different way. So in 2010, I started doing that. I had, sometimes people from New York come and spend a weekend with me. It was more fun than kind of set up like a business. And I just worked as I got better, as my health improved, I kind of added. And so I was kind of doing these fun retreats 2 to 3 times a year. And recently I was like, well, I want to do more of this. I want to reach more people. I want to just like really step into it and really offer that transformation. And that's kind of when I found you.
Yeah. And how did you find me?
I think it was actually Facebook, and your name was familiar to me because I had started my business around 2010, and I remember seeing you, I think, as a health coach, and so your name was familiar. I had heard you speak before, and so I saw your name come up. But the thing that really struck out was the Speak Your Way to Success. And for me, I had worked, even when I was in the wilderness, in that instructor role, I had to teach and I had to speak. And it's always been an issue for me. Even in high school, I used to kind of like avoid the presentations and speaking in front of people. But I knew that's something that I had to do. So when I saw that, and it just resonated with me, I know that I have to do that. I don't exactly know what it was. I know your name, and that kind of called to me. So
Yeah, and I remember like before any sort of call, you booked a call, and before we get any calls, myself and the sales angels that are take calls, we always do all this research on the client and go to their website, and they filled a pre-call form before. And I had like watched your video and heard your story, and I was already so in love and like, oh my gosh, she's got such an incredible story, because you were speaking and sharing about the Lyme recovery. And then, so then you knew you wanted to use speaking, and then so you didn't really have a business. You were kind of doing these retreats that were more like fun, but weren't really the way you wanted it. So what else were you struggling with in your business? And because I know you said that this was really out of your comfort zone.
Oh, yes, definitely. So I think I spoke once in November, and I talked with you in January or February. And that was like the first time I really publicly spoke about this Lyme and my journey. And so I was speaking at little events here and there because something inside of me is like, I have to share. But it wasn't connected. I wasn't connecting it really with the retreats that I was doing or any of my work. And the retreats, I mean, some of the struggles, if you're just doing it for fun, but then you have to cover the cost of, renting canoes and paddles and renting an island and yeah, and food and doing all this cooking. So it was a lot of work, and sometimes I found myself like just barely able to cover the expenses of the retreat. So
Oh yeah,
great gift for everybody else, but then I was exhausted and couldn't do anything else. So I think that was probably the biggest struggle.
Sorry, were you charging for those or just minimally charging?
Very minimally. Yeah.
And then you had all these expenses, right? So then you're like, great, here's my gift, and you have no profit. So yeah, so you're struggling with that. And then let's see, so that's crazy. So then I know, okay, so what else were you struggling with? Anything else in your business? Sounds like it wasn't really a business, it was more like an expensive hobby.
Yeah, it was an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
I mean, just being clear, like I wanted to bring people out and connect with nature and bring them on this like incredible transformational journey. I had studied with elders in Peru and in Maine, these ancient teachings and things that can really bring you into a whole new life. And but then in my marketing, I'm like, come hang out by the fire and I'll cook you some hot dogs or something. So what I really wanted to do wasn't really translating, through the emails I was sending out or the invitations. So most of the people that came on these retreats kind of knew me, but they didn't really know the whole story, and they just wanted to come hang out outside with me and see what I was doing.
Right. They're like, that sounds fun. I'll have a hot dog.
Yeah.
So your message wasn't landing in your emails or in any of your marketing. So what happened and how did we work together? Because I remember like really going in, okay, what is the ideal client? What is the journey? Like, what are the steps that you're going to take? So what was it that shifted with you? Because you wrote a testimonial, which is on the Speak Your Way to Success with the Moxley Method sales page. And in there, it says that this was really uncomfortable for you, but you also said that once you nailed your message, you got clients instantly. So what did you do so that you could nail this message? Do you remember?
I remember one of our calls, we had kind of looked at the bigger picture. So it was like we went really big picture and then like really kind of like small and focus and what is like right in front of you. And I think I was working on the free gift and like what is it that I offer and trying to get really clear on that, because I was just more open and vague and just kind of expecting people to understand what I was talking about. But when we brought it in and really lasered in on it, and I think you even helped me with the title, I created Map Your Way to Clarity. And so I did a guided audio and created some maps, like printable maps that people could kind of go into. And so that became kind of the entryway. They get to try out what I'm doing, get to hear my voice. And the mapping thing is the basic. It's the first thing that I do with everyone, and any work that I do, it's always this mapping process. So to get that really helped with the clarity. And then from there, I created a whole kind of avenue or flow. So if they resonate with that, then they can go into the mapping or strategy session, and where we can talk for 45 minutes. I can guide them through a process so they can really experience that and have some transformation. Or, if they want the more, then I have the retreats, and I've created a Map Your Way to Clarity retreat. So there's a whole, it's all clear and like next steps.
So I think, so we went really big picture. Okay, where are we going? And then we went, okay, well, what is the first step you do? And your first step you were always doing was like, let's get a map. And you do these earth maps where you draw the earth, they're out in nature with you and you do an earth map. I remember. Yep. And then you were like, and so then that was the gateway, the entry point to your signature system. And now you have then developed that one step out of your signature system. The first step is now even a retreat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fantastic. So, so you nailed your message, and then was that landing for people? Like when you shared that, because I know you got booked with talks. So what was the difference? And I know you did a preview call, and tell us a little bit about that journey, because I remember you put together a signature talk. You did your tribe, and you have also been invited to speak in multiple places just out of the blue.
Yes. So there was the mapping piece, and that was the first step. What I had already set up was a retreat called the Journey of the Vision Tree. And it's a journey where I take people from their roots to their core to their crown. So we get rooted and embodied. And this is all out in nature. And we actually work with the trees. And then they receive this higher vision at the end of the retreat that they can go home and step into. And so I had done that before and kind of just said, okay, we're going on this amazing journey and this is it. But with some of your guidance, what I ended up doing was a preview call, so I could kind of take them through a little mini version of that journey so they could experience it. And I opened it up to questions and answers at the end. So people that had questions about the retreat or that journey, we could interact right there. And even people that were kind of afraid to, just reach out to me or talk one-on-one were able to be in that group and to connect and hear what it was about. And I also, another thing that I had was, I'd pick a weekend and some people would want to go, but they'd have their, children's graduations or something else going on. So what I did was I had the preview call, and then I offered a sort of like a virtual version of the retreat. So we met, we had 3 calls where we went from roots to core to crown, and that was really powerful. I think I had some technical difficulties with the first call and signing people up, but I had 12 people on that call. I had 6 people do the virtual journey with me, and then
is that paid?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so you made an offer on there, and then you were enrolled 50% of the people.
Mm-hmm. And then 4 people actually did the virtual journey, and then the actual physical one too from that.
How many? I'm just writing some there. Okay, how many?
Yeah. So I had 6 on the virtual journey, and then I think 4 from that call that ended up coming on the actual retreat. So they did both.
Incredible. So you had more than it's about 10 out of the 12 people.
Yeah. And then the other ones are, I created a priority list for the next retreat. So they'll find out. So the people that weren't able to go on that one or participate have signed up to be notified for when I do that one again.
Oh, that's great. So that's incredible. You had a 90% close ratio.
Yeah.
And your message really landed. And this is a really like obscure niche. I mean, this is very unique and valuable and it's experiential for people. So great. Okay. Incredible. So then what else? Then you also were asked to speak. Tell us about some of the results about when you went to different conferences and spoke.
Oh, yeah. So I have been speaking more in kind of like the spiritual or enlightenment little gatherings in this area, Portland, Maine. And so I've been doing that for a while, but not really inviting anybody into anything, just like, hey. And so this year I ended up going to a women's conference, and So I'm a wilderness guide, and I'm out in the woods, and then here I find myself at this, kind of a business conference, and I look around like I'm wearing my best sneakers and nobody else is wearing sneakers. And so at first I felt like really out of place. And but I sat there, and I remember talking with you about, well, what do I put on my table? And do I have I don't have business cards, and I don't have a big sign or anything. And I don't really feel called to do that. And so here's, part of the clarity, like, how do you share yourself when that doesn't feel like it resonates? And so I had these big crystals, I got some pine cones and some stuff from the earth. So as the women walk by, they're like, whoa, so what do you do? And it gave us the opportunity to talk. And some people love crystals, and some people were curious about the pine cones, and we did some mapping right on the table. So I made a lot of really good connections there, and was able to invite people into the mapping, that free gift, so they could go right into that. And I was able to talk with some folks and do some breakthrough kind of work on the phone. So that was one of the events. And recent.
You are like, right? And I think I have a visual of you telling me you had bare feet.
I did, yes.
No, they were bare feet, and everyone's like in their high heels, and you're like totally earth, and they were like, wait, who's this? So be yourself and make big. Be you and make
big.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I always go barefoot if I'm speaking or doing any sort of event. So I did have my best sneakers on when I went, and I took them off. So that was it was an experience, and I was grateful to have the support, and I probably wouldn't have done that otherwise. And just more recently, I've just had more speaking opportunities. Yesterday, I was on, I have a friend, Matt Belair, who does a podcast that's, I think, #1 in spirituality, and was able to be on his show yesterday and share. It's like 2 hours long.
Oh.
So, yeah. And, through this, I had that Lyme experience, but I didn't really want to talk about it. But it's kind of hard to share my message without, like, I have to more embrace it than push it away. So I've done a lot more little like videos on YouTube to give people little, nuggets of information that can be helpful. From, I think somebody in the Speak Your Way to Success had said, how do you go back in the wilderness when you've had this experience? And like, aren't you afraid? And I'm afraid. And what do you do? So I did the suggestion was to do a little video series talking about that. So I did, I think, 5 short clips to explain how I bring myself back in the wilderness. And
I love that.
Yeah, the real things you can do to protect yourself. And it's not just like, putting a bubble of light around yourself and going back in, but it's like a real thing. So
that's incredible. So that you got that idea from one of the women in the group.
Yeah.
Oh my
Sarah.
God. Yeah. Oh, good job, Sarah. Yeah. So like that whole idea of this mastermind, because I wouldn't have thought about it, because I'm not really afraid, but I haven't have experienced that, so I wouldn't have that recommendation. So you have the different perspectives of the other women in the group. So you're doing videos, and I'm now on Instagram, Amanda J. Moxley, and you're on there too. And I see these incredible photos of you doing your Tai Chi, or is that it? Is it Tai Chi?
It's called Shokai.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like incredible. So you're getting a lot more visibility, and then you're weaving in your Shokai.
Yes, yeah, I'm weaving in the Shokai into my retreats. So I usually get up early at sunrise and practice, and I invite people to come with me, but they are like, I'm on a retreat and I'm not going to get up that early. And so I've kind of just let them do, what they want to do. We do some more movement later, but they're really asking for more of that. So I'm bringing more and more of that into the retreats, and also being more visible about that practice. And I don't think I was that visible before, and then it was more like my own practice. But I've started a women's empowerment through martial arts class, and that's been going really well. So I think the more that I can just step into that. I know where that came from. We did a visualization on one of our Q&A calls, and you had said, where do you imagine yourself being? Like, if you could do anything. I can't remember the exact cues. And I was like, I'm on the beach and, practicing this martial arts and, out in the wilderness doing this. And so since then, I've really tried to bring it in more and share that more.
Oh, incredible. I love it. So you've got that vision of, I think it maybe was like going through the VIP days and I was like, who do you need to be? And like,
Oh, yeah.
you. And now you're like, I've got this vision of me on the beach doing this cool ancient art of body movement. And it's really cool. So feels like you're really embodying all of you, which you probably always were, but now it's more in your marketing. Not like you're some weird marketer, but you're out there and you're sharing your gifts. And it's attractive for people, and you're getting YouTube and podcasts, speaking gigs, workshops, and you're filling your retreats.
Yeah.
So really, this is huge. So before your message wasn't landing, and what would you say was like the number one biggest breakthrough? There's a lot of people here who are watching, and their message isn't landing, and they were where you were before, where their business is more of an expensive hobby, and they're not getting results in their business. So what would you say was the number one thing that could help them instantly, instantly nail their message?
I think the biggest thing is making a decision. It was really hard for me to just make a decision to kind of focus on one thing because I feel like I have so much to offer. But then it leaves it so vague that nobody really gets it. But if you can really focus it in and really, really focus and choose that thing and then have help with how to word it. I know the language that I use, it may not be understood. So having feedback and once you got the map your way to clarity, that was really clear. And when I brought that to that conference, then the people are like, oh, that should be your business name. Like that makes sense to me instead of Wilderness Wisdom Journeys. And so I did have some feedback even from that conference and interacting with people where it felt like they could grasp that a lot easier than, the Wilderness Wisdom Journeys.
Right.
So.
It's like a beautiful idea, but it's like, how do I go with you with Wisdom Wilderness Journeys? Yeah. So the map your way to clarity. I also really remember working with you, and what I do with all my clients is really nail down who is your ideal client? Who are you talking to? Mm-hmm. And so you had this preview call, and you had enrolled at 75% of these people. So you had these beta testers in some ways, where you knew where they were struggling. They were all in this place. I remember they were at a stuck point or a transitional point, right? Mm-hmm. This place where they were in transition.
Yeah.
So being able to ground it in more into their words and the words they are actually using. So, so what would you say? What was your favorite part about working with me and Speak Your Way to Success and being in the group?
Oh, I don't know if I could pick a favorite. It was it was all awesome. It was really helpful to have the just that complete focus. I don't know if we had an hour and a half together, but just you kind of went through and chopped up all the stuff I had so that I could see it because it was like a big glob of a mess of what I was trying to do. And then you kind of just laser through everything, and that helped me to really organize it, and then I could kind of step forward. So with that clarity, it was easier for me to step forward. But all of the group calls, hearing other people, where they were, what they're working with, we're coming from different places. And the thing I think that I appreciated the most was that it's focused on each person to be themselves. So whatever their thing is, that's what you're igniting and kind of building up. So it wasn't like I had to fit into this little cookie cutter kind of mold. It really allowed me to step into more of who I am. And with all the information, all the videos, the worksheets, I still am using those now. I think I started that program in January, but it's given me enough that I am still going and still taking action. So it's
still doing
yeah.
books and the videos?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's a really good feedback. And I really appreciate you saying the individualized, because you all are all so unique. I actually see a lot of my clients here. Jennifer's here, Christy's here. Hi, Christy. I'm so glad you're here too. And Jennifer. And it's like I love it. You guys, I just get down with your stories and I'm trying. It's just like this fun little thing. I get okay, what's your story and how are we going to weave that in and who's your ideal client? And then it's just really fun to see what you all create with it. So I love that there's still so much. It's the content that just keeps on giving, and you have lifetime access to that. So
awesome.
So excellent. So let me give you guys some tips. What I would say on nailing your message. It really comes down to knowing your story, because if you're trying to tell someone else's story, it won't be authentic. So with Jaclyn, she didn't always feel comfortable to share and talk about her Lyme. She didn't want to be identified with that. But she knew that she loved this wilderness side because she had been the Knowles guide. Was it Knowles?
Yes.
Yeah, she'd been the Knowles guide. So she knew it was wilderness and nature, but then she had also had the shamanic background, right? So then we went into and studied that and studied these wisdom teachings. So then we went a little bit deeper into who she really is. And then where are her clients? It all comes down to who are your clients, and your clients are going to be a version of you. You're in third grade and they're in first grade, and they're so close to you. But you've been there, you've done that, you've gotten the T-shirt, you've overcome whatever pain that they have, and this is like an intimate pain. Like, what was the pain that you've overcome here with the mapping to clarity, right? Because you are a version of your client. In what way are you a version of your ideal client? And what the problem, does that make sense?
Yep. I think so. I was just really unclear. And if I go back and look through my entire journey, it was first I had to decide, I had to be clear, like, do I want to live or do I want to die? That was basically my choice. So I had to be clear on that because I was in this in-between place. So I had to make that decision and make that really clear. But then I had no doctors and no guides or anybody that knew how to get me out of that place. So I had to be clear on where I wanted to go and what the next step was. So for me, that's what I did. I would go to the beach and I would move around the sand and the rocks and find a way to represent how I was feeling in the moment, and then see if I could see from that, like, what is my next step? And each one was so little, so seemingly little of a step, but over the last 12 years, 6 to 12 years, it's made all the difference. So wherever anybody is, like, if you're in this place of not being clear, confusion, then it's hard to move out of that. But if you can take that from the inside, put it on the outside, you can see it more clearly and see what the next step is, even if you can't see the bigger picture yet.
Like, I like what you're saying. It was just like, what is just that one next step? That next step. And that's what you're doing with your clarity mapping for your clients.
Yeah.
So exactly. So that's how you do it. You look at what were the steps you took. How did you overcome? What was that first step, the second step, third step, fourth step, fifth step? Now, as you're moving deeper, Jaclyn, well, part of me just getting the clarity was then I developed this martial arts practice, and now you're sharing that. And then the next step was I, got visible, and I don't know, I'm saying, like, then I started talking about my journey with Lyme. That would be another step, and you're helping people with that. So think about that. And I love what you're saying about it's about a decision. It literally, because I see some of my clients that are on here, and I don't think Rebecca's here anymore, but it's just like people can spin and spin and spin and spin and spin about their niche and their message, and it really comes down to just deciding. And like, I like what you said. Like, you said something about, I was talking about all these things. What did you say? But it was very vague and it wasn't landing. And so a lot of people talk about all this stuff, but just zone it in even more and create a following for the one thing before you create the following of all the things. Like Tony Robbins, he's got all these things. He's got wealth mastery and life mastery and business mastery and whatever, relationships. He's got all these things, but he didn't start with that. So, and for me, I've niched down. I was a business coach and I was a money mindset coach. And now I've niched down even further just to do speaking. And of course, I add in mindset and business tools in there too. But so pick one thing and stick on it and build a following around that and get known for something. and it requires courage to show up as that person. And you're going to hear those words like you're a fraud and who do you think you are? That's just your ego talking. And how do we know it's the ego? I bet, Jaclyn, you have some tips on that. But the ego will give you like short little jabs of like words like, oh, who do you think you are? Like it's not truth. It's not light. Those words, how would you recognize those thoughts in your head?
Well, if you're listening to spirit, then spirit's not going to speak to you in words that are going to make you feel bad or like you're beating yourself up. I think the ego is kind of like, it's that voice that you don't ever want to say out loud to anybody else. And I think that's it. Usually if I hear a spiritual voice or a message, it's like, maybe I don't want to do that because it pushes me out of my comfort zone, but it's not like, you're not good enough to do that, or you'll never do that. It's a different kind of quality towards growth.
Oh yeah, I love that. Thank you. And it's so true. Like you hear these little words and it just shoo off. It's like a little fly, like get out. Okay, so okay, tell me what it was like for you to join Speak Your Way to Success, because it's not like a cheap home study course, we know. And it made you uncomfortable. Tell us what that was like for you.
I remember scheduling the call with you, the first one, and just to find out more. And I was like, I know that I want to do this no matter what she says. And so like I knew that ahead of time. I knew I was in a place where I didn't have a lot of funds coming in. I was struggling in my business and or my expensive hobby. And so we had that call and I was like, everything sounds exactly what I need right now. And so to make that commitment, I remember I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. And you supported me in finding the way to do it. And it wasn't easy. It was pretty challenging, but it really kind of made me go forward and to actually like do the things that I said I was going to do, instead of, no, I'm not going to do it this time. It was like I really had to, and I really wanted to, and I was holding myself to it. And same with you and the group. It's like it kind of holds you up to go to the next place.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally love that, because it was like you were so sold. You're like, so want this. And then and here's the thing, I'll do a Facebook Live show on sales someday, but it's about partnering, going shoulder to shoulder with your person who wants to work with you and really helping them. And so, we gave you some funding resources and you got uncomfortable. Like you were doing which is what I've done too in my career. I have like, I want this, and I had to like get extended credit. I had to ask people for loan. Like, I mean, it was uncomfortable. I had to sell stuff. So that's what we do as entrepreneurs, but I love it because you did show up and you did the work and you got the results. And like, and you're a different person now than you were then.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the biggest thing that you're most proud of that you've created for yourself since Speak Your Way to Success?
Well, this is a little thing. It's not the biggest, but I remember you're like, what do you want? And I think I like didn't even have shampoo or something when I was talking to you. And I was like, I just want to be able to buy a good bottle of shampoo. Like that's what's driving me. So I did get some good shampoo, and I just like, I like that. That's part of, when I feel abundant, sometimes it's like the small things, like having the shampoo I want, or having the fridge full of food that I want, or I have a little thing in my car that holds quarters. Like I like to have that full, and some of those little things. But in the bigger picture, I feel a lot more confident with my message and my business. I'm taking this fall off from leading retreats, and I just want to dive in and write a little bit more. I've been sort of working on a book about my story for a long time, and this has kind of sparked that to keep going forward with it. I know some of the speaks that I've done before and presentations I get done, and like that is my thing that I'm giving, and then everybody's like, well, what's next? Like, do you have a book? And so that's what I'm going to be working on this fall and winter, and then I'll have some retreats in the spring.
Great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Congrats. And you have such beautiful long hair. You need really good shampoo. Like
I do.
shampoo. It's like, how long is your hair? Is it
I don't know.
all the way down to your, oh my gosh, yeah, you deserve it. I'm so glad you got that. I mean, it is the little things, but the little things are the big things. So amazing. And you're clear. And now you're going to write a book. Like I can see this getting picked up by a New York Times bestseller, or this could be, your experience with Lyme. I just feel like any of you in your seminar stories, you've been to hell and back basically, and you lived and you decided to live. And now you have a message and a story and you're here to share it. You went through it for a reason. I actually have a module. It's called The Past is Over, but you can still cash in on it. And that's exactly what we're doing here. And then you share that story. Like, why else would you go through that story? Just so you could, like, you know, tell your grandkids about it? No, like, this is really meant for something. So excellent, Jaclyn. So what's next for you? I guess you shared with us that you're writing the book, but how can we keep in touch with you, follow you on Instagram and Facebook and watch your videos? Or if people are struggling with, you know, Lyme disease or want help and want to go on a retreat with you, how can we find out more?
Yep. The best place would be my website, which is still Wilderness Wisdom Journeys right now. I have a tab on there that I've created that says begin here, and that's where the map your way to clarity is. My other retreats and offerings are on that website. I've just started I'm calling Lyme Path TV, so interviewing others who have gone through this transformational journey with Lyme. So that's been really inspiring, and sharing lots of good information and help for people that are in that place. So my website has links to my YouTube, Facebook page, Wilderness Wisdom Journeys, and also my Instagram is Jaclyn A. Ouillette. So
Cool.
Those are the places.
Oh, wow. I love it. Well, I remember when we first talked, and I remember asking you, so do you want to do this just around Lyme? And you said no.
Right.
This is really what happens to a lot of people. They have gone through something traumatic or major, or they, you know, yesterday I was talking with a career coach and she was trying to be like a soul inspired coach. But the universe keeps bringing you back. It's almost like if you guys have read the Bible and the story of Jonah and the whale, like if you know that story, right? He wasn't listening. He wasn't listening. And then he left and he fled, and then he gets swallowed by a whale, so to speak. So it's the same thing. You might be having your Jonah moment. So I want you to listen and yield to it. And I'm grateful and I'm really excited. And that is what I call a plane is crashing problem. And we get to figure out how to monetize that now. You know, maybe it's a Lyme recovery, and you're using these tools. I can't help myself. I just keep coaching you, but can you use these tools that you did to walk out this path, using these shamanic and these cool wilderness tools? Like you're going to create a program for Lyme wellness, Lyme recovery. Do you have one yet?
No, not specifically.
Yeah, I mean, if people are asking you what next, so when you write your book, make your book have a call to action to the next step, joining you on a retreat, always use anyone, if you're ever writing a book, use your book as a calling card who has a calling card, but a business card, like use it for a marketing tool. Yeah. And it's a great resource. People can really get to know you. So how long are you going to take to write this book?
How long am I going to take? I've never written a book before, so I don't know how long it actually takes. And I don't know all the steps. I remember we talked about it on one of the Q&As. So I am going to hunker down this fall, and in the winter, since Maine, winters are kind of long, I've already started writing. And so I don't know. I want to see what I can get through over the winter.
Yeah, sounds great. Just been hunkering down in a Maine winter and writing your book. I love it. Well, congratulations, Jaclyn. Really proud of you. Thanks for going out of your comfort zone and just becoming who you are today. And I wish you all the success and all the good things ahead of you.
Thank you.
Yay! I hope you guys comment and share, ask her questions, get in contact with Jaclyn. And then, of course, if any of this is like getting in your mind, like, wow, Amanda, coaching with her sounds like an exciting thing for me to do. Guess what? By the way, go to amandamoxley.com and it'll say work with me. And you guys can see details of the Speak Your Way to Success system. It's actually, we named it the Moxley method in there, but you can see absolutely everything. It's all lined up. It's all right there. And then you can apply for a strategy session with me or one of my breakthrough angels. So I'm grateful for you. It's a joy to share this with you. And I'll see you all next week. Next week, we're going deep into Ideal Client. It's going to rock. All right. Thank you. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Amanda.